presentation on City of Kyle water quality. Mr. Tim Sanford. And Tim, before you start, I'll just say that I asked this item to be put on here because we've had, really over the course of as long as I've been a part of Kyle, a certain number of people have complained about the quality of the water. It's generally not been very many, and I've never personally had a single issue with it. But over the last few months, I think I've detected an increase in the amount of complaints, people saying that their water smells funny, smells like gas, or is so hard that it's causing their shower heads to corrode in some excessive way, and various types of complaints. And then compounding that was the Lake Dunlop dam spill, and I know that, or dam break, I should say, and I know that's got a lot of folks curious as to how that's affected not just our water supply, but our water treatment. There's a lot of information that's being passed around online and through emails and phone calls, and I wanted to invite the community to come listen to you give us from the horse's mouth exactly what that process is that we go through when we source our water, what the quality is relative to other jurisdictions, and then also maybe to speak to some of those complaints that I'm putting in your ear on behalf of the citizens.
Sure. So good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Tim Sanford, Treatment Operations Manager for the City of Kyle. I have put a brief presentation together for what was requested of me, and hopefully I can highlight all the points that need to be highlighted. So where does the City of Kyle get its drinking water from? The primary source that is used as of right now is through GBRA, which is via Lake Dunlap through Canyon Lake Releasing. That is a surface water that is treated at St. Marcus Surface Water Treatment Plant. And that gets to us, and it's treated water, it's purchased. The groundwater that we use and we self-produce is from the San Antonio and Barton Springs segment of Edwards Aquifer. We do that through 5 wells that the city maintains. And an emergency source that we have available to us is from the city of St. Marcus. It's a combined source of surface that they receive from GBRA, and it's a source from Edwards Aquifer, which is our groundwater source. So I put together something from 2018 just to give everybody an idea of, what capacity we use from the different sources that we have available to us. That gives you just a rundown of 2018. Now keep in mind, we use less groundwater from our wells that year because one of our larger wells was down for the majority of the year. On a typical year, I would expect that to be anywhere from 25 to 30% higher. And that varies as well, because you have to understand of the permitting process. That's, I'm sure a lot of people are aware, when restrictions get placed with the water, our capacity in the permits that we hold with Edwards Aquifer and Barton Springs dramatically reduces. So just to give a brief understanding of the amounts of water we use from different sources. The process in which the water is treated, like I said, GBRA sends us purchased water, or we purchase water from GBRA. It's treated to meet or exceed TCEQ, which is Texas Commission on Environmental Quality standards, and we do not send that water out into our system unless it's between 1.5 and 2 milligrams per liter free chlorine residual. We do not add anything to our water beyond that when we receive it from GBRA. The only times that we do add that is if we need to boost it to maintain residuals in our systems. I say 1.5 to 2, and the reasoning for that is because if it leaves our facilities into the distribution systems, to be able to reach the far reaches of our system and still maintain the minimal residuals that are required upon us, that is the optimal residual we have to maintain. So some people may see a little bit of a higher residual, and some people are going to see a little bit of a lower residual at the farther reaches of the system. So the water that we produce on our own from Edwards Aquifer, the only treatment process that it has to go through is disinfection, and we treat that with the free chlorine, and it's the same as the purchased water, 1.5 to 2 milligrams per liter, and we don't. So I put up there too. So TCQ actually is regulating us to maintain between a 0.2 and a 4 milligrams per liter in our distribution system. So it's just been found over the years through research, I'm assuming, that 1.5 to 2 is optimal leaving our facilities, so that's what we do. And the same with City of San Marcos, so any water that Kyle receives is gonna have at least a minimum residual. If we need to boost that, we do so before sending it out to the system. And that is just emergency basis.
So to put that in, what I just heard you say in layman's terms is that the GBRA, in coordination with the city of San Marcos, treats the water in San Marcos and then sends it up to us from Canyon Lake or from Lake Dunlop through Canyon Lake to here. We don't actually treat or modify the water in any way other than to slightly boost chlorine levels if there's been loss between San Marcos and the city of Kyle.
Correct, yes. There's no treatment involved with the water we receive from GBRA.
And Buda gets its water from?
So I'm not totally educated on Buta's water, but I know their source is GBRA, but they also have groundwater wells as well.
Basically the same kind of setup as what we have.
Yes, sir, and they're working, and I don't want to speak on what they have because I'm not fully educated on their system, so.
Okay.
So this next slide is just a brief overview what, as operations, we manage and maintain. This is the makeup of our groundwater, this is our makeup of our distribution system. Just know that all of these facilities do go through an annual inspection by qualified personnel, and that is contracted out by City of Kyle staff on an annual basis. That's a TCU requirement. We meet the standards every year and address any issues that may come of those inspections. And that's not to say that it's only inspected once a year. I do want to interject in that and say that staff visit the sites on a daily basis. There's security things that are checked. There's a multitude of things that are checked at each site every day. This is just a qualified personnel that's checking coatings, that's checking any sediment that may be built up in the tanks, anything that out of the ordinary that we don't catch on a day-to-day basis.
Typically, when does that annual review happen?
So we just completed that back in the beginning of April, I believe, and that report has not been made available to me as of yet. The way that it's been dealt, we did this year as well, is actually dive into the tanks they disinfect themselves, they dive into the tanks, and they're able to get a very in-depth view of what's going on inside of the tanks instead of just looking down into the water and saying, oh, well, everything looks good. Well, they get down, they can tell how much sediment's built up on the bottom, which could cause problems for, growth and things like that. And if it gets to a certain point, we remove that. And that's what we did on a couple of tanks this year. There was no issues of coming that, but as a preventative measure, we went ahead and took care of it.
And the system is also monitored 24/7 by the SCADA system, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So if there's any emergency or any problem, you guys are able to access it and take care of that 24/7?
Correct, yes, ma'am. I'm glad you brought that up. That was one of the points I was going to hit is, so we have monitoring equipment that constantly monitors our chlorine residuals. And if that residual were to be beyond any parameters that we set, whether that be on the low side or high side, it's going to cut off all pumps at that site and not let that water exit that facility. So there's no chance that that water could get to the system and cause a problem for anybody in our system. So here I'm just speaking on a little bit of a quality assurance. These are some of the tests that we perform on a monthly basis. It includes microbial tests. You may also hear it called BACT sampling. This is kind of a jargon we use. Lead and copper sampling, we do that every 3 years. We're on a reduced sampling plan with TCEQ, and we're doing that between June and September of this year. So residents that had it before should expect us to be knocking on our doors soon to set that up with them. That sample is actually collected by the resident inside their home. The city staff does nothing but transport it to the lab, and the lab runs the analysis. So the city doesn't put our hands on it other than just transporting it. Chlorine residuals, and when I speak on chlorine residuals, these are actually taken by hand by licensed professionals, licensed operators in the system, up to 15 residuals that we take at our facilities, and then in the distribution on a daily basis. And there's also residuals taken at over 150 dead ends monthly, and those are also done by licensed staff. So the system on a daily basis is really, it's our baby, so we're watching over it.
What are the steps if we do come out with high chlorine? What steps do we take?
So if we were to receive something high from, say GBRA, there was an instance, and I believe that Kim had put something out for us, where we were receiving a high residual from GBRA. We received an alarm in the middle of the night, and we were able to access SCADA through our remote in, through our laptops, and we were able to we were able to ensure that everything was shut down. And we received the alarm because of the online analyzer that we had in place that measured the chlorine level. In that instance, what we had to do is we coordinated with GBRA starting that morning around 8 o'clock, and they were able to find the problem in their system. And then what we ended up having to do is, unfortunately, we had to flush the water onto the ground until it met what was acceptable to us to put in the system. So we've had other instances where we've lost chlorination at a well or something, but we've been able to mitigate any issues in the system because we catch it before it gets too low in the tanks because of those analyzers. So that's a very important part of our system and catching things. I'd say proactive rather than trying to react to a situation that could possibly be harmful to some people.
Thank you.
So, make sure I didn't skip anything. So does quality assurance, this is just a list of tests that TCEQ, and this is not just a list, this is just the main topics that TCEQ samples on a scheduled basis. I did provide a link to Drinking Water Watch, just because of the amount of information that is available on there. We'd be here till 2 o'clock in the morning. But if you use that link and try to navigate through there, and I really want to encourage anybody that tries to get on there and wants to navigate something, contact Public Works and ask for Tim Sanford. I will be more than happy to navigate anybody through that because it's a little bit of a spaghetti bowl, but there is a whole lot of information there. So really, I'd encourage anybody to get on there and look at our system. Anything about our system is available on there. So I've talked to residents that have concerns, and I've pointed them in the direction of Drinking Water Watch, and they're blown away by it. Man, that's great. So they're appreciative. I think it's just them knowing it's available to them. TCEQ maintains this. The city of Kyle does not. I do go over it and make sure that our information is correct, but we don't have our hands on it. So know that there's no influence on our part. Some other things that I want to speak on. These are just some tests that are conducted that are near the allowable range for TCEQ. And the first one is trihalomethanes. This is just we call it a disinfection byproduct. It's composed of the different compounds that you see listed, and the maximum contaminant level is 80 micrograms per liter. For 2018, Kyle averaged 44.5, and the maximum that we saw was 64.4. Now that's not a violation, but it's close. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware, and that is just a byproduct of disinfection for the water. That's all it is. The only thing that we can do to try to mitigate that is not allow the water to age in the system and not to dose it too high. And so you kind of see the struggle that we have in not dosing too high and dosing enough to maintain a residual in the system. The next one is fluoride, which I know has been a big topic in the past. We do have a well that this has been a problem with, and that well will soon be coming back online. For 2018, that well was, for the most part, not online. So for 2018, the levels you're going to see are going to be 1.78. The threshold for us having to notify the public is a 2.0, and the maximum containment level is a 4.0. What we try to do to mitigate the higher levels of fluoride that are produced from this well is just dilute it with other wells that we have in the system, as well as the surface water that we have. Can't promise that
So
that number won't rise, but we would do our best efforts to try to keep that below that 2.0 threshold.
So what I hear you saying is that we do not add fluoride to our water at all.
We do not have fluoride.
Does GBRA and San Marcos add it before shipping it to us?
No, sir.
We used to get fluoride through San Marcos back in the day, but when San Marcos canceled that, we, obviously, it left our water supply. We did have the option to put it on ourselves, but the council at the time decided not to.
Mayor, Council, Harper Wilder, Public Works Director. I just wanted to point out that Tim's doing a great job on this, and I just wanted to point out for some of the new council members that may not know, the groundwater, all our wells are located on the west side. The surface water comes in from the east side in 2 different locations right now. There's going to be a third one in the near future coming in at Crosswinds subdivision. Those ground wells are what gives you the hardness and what gives you the fluoride. And the fluoride, as Tim said, is more centered around one well in a certain area on the far west side. And it's been that way, for Kyle as long as we've been recording stuff. There's no issue. It's well within the limitations. It's checked every day. But as we move forward and they start putting more stringent levels on us, that may be something that we have to tackle one day and try to bring that down. But that's something for another day. That's it.
Was there any more questions on fluoride? Okay. So I just also wanted to bring up, I think I've already spoken on this to the extent that it really needs to be spoken on, is the Drinking Water Watch. I really want to encourage citizens or council or mayor, administration, anybody that has questions. When you do go on, use the PWS number that I have listed here. That'll gain you quick access, and so you don't have to search through the million of systems that are on there. The other tool that the city uses that is required of us by TCEQ is the Consumer Confidence Report that is going to be issued electronically form, or it's going to be available by electronic form to citizens and customers by July 1st of every year. I did provide a link to last year's, or 2017's Consumer Confidence Report. You may also hear it called just abbreviated CCR. If you do a quick search on the City of Kyle's website, City of Kyle CCR, it'll pop up, and that gives you if that gives you violations that the city had the past year. That gives you the levels of our concern of TCEQ that they require us to report. That gives you water loss information and some fun pictures that Kim's able to put on there for us. Yeah. We get to see how hard our staff works. Be appreciative of them. So future water supplies, the city has entered agreement with Alliance Regional Water Authority. The City of Kyle entered this along with, I believe it was 4 or 5 other utilities. I wouldn't name them off. I know it's Buda, San Marcos, and a few other. I don't know them off the top of my head. Sorry. But this is just a source of groundwater from the Carrizo Aquifer, which is near Bastrop area, if y'all are familiar with that area. It's in Caldwell County. So just a quick overview of what our expectations are from this is in 2023, our expectations are 4,200 acre feet, which is equivalent of around 1.3 billion gallons available to us. And then through the final phases that are supposed to go through 2040, we're expected to have 3.8 additional gallons of water, of drinking water, made available to us. This water will be treated to a further extent than we treat our groundwater currently. The extent it's going to be treated to has not been determined yet because they're evaluating all the partners that are involved to be sure that it is of equal to our current supply of water so that we don't see any adverse effects when it is put into our system. Any questions on that?
Is the water coming out of the Carrizo hard as hard as what we get out of the Hayes or the Trinity or Canyon Lake?
I don't know the specifics on it. I can get some details and provide those to council and you, Mayor, but I think I don't think they honestly know, from what I've been told, until they start drilling and pumping water. So I think that's the sad but true part. But I'll ask them for that information if it's available.
It is a beach sand aquifer versus a limestone aquifer, so it will be a little bit different than the Edwards aquifer water for sure.
It is
Yeah,
a
that's
def-
kind of what I'm trying to get at, is
Yeah.
just what's the difference in the
So the composition,
style of water coming our way?
I can't speak on the composition of the well. It is not more
It's not
as
thin.
much of a limestone. It is more of a gravel and sand, and I'm not a geologist, but it's a different composition of the well. When we have details as to what they're promising to deliver, I will definitely provide those to staff and citizens.
I do have a question. How
Yes,
will
ma'am.
that affect the amount of groundwater we're then?
From our current wells,
Yes.
it's 2023. We're not really expecting to supplement with ARWA to the extent that I think that when this was initially put in place, it's really hard to project out to 2040.
Okay.
So I would like to have a good answer for that, but I think it's just, it's difficult to say this is exactly where we're gonna be hitting. We're definitely gonna need, it's hard to say.
No, I understand. It's just, with what's happened at, in New Braunfels and such, surface water tends to have to be dammed and everything, and
Right.
unfortunately, the state of a lot of the dams in the state are not up to par. So I do worry about, issues like that happening more frequently in the next 20 years or so. So.
And I agree, and as an operator myself, I feel that using ARWA just to create a more resilient system was the best decision that Kyle could have made. Because like you said, we don't know if that source is going to be available from GBRA just because of a failed dam that's over 90 years old. So it just builds more resilience in our systems, gives us more options to build upon.
Just want to add real quick, it was actually two-phase here, how many years ago, James? 7, when we took the rest of GBRA's pipe? I don't know, it's been years though, but it was two-phase. There was a remaining portion of the pie in the GBRA supply line that comes to us in Buda. We came to council back then and told them, we feel this is the best option. The infrastructure's already here. We're already tied in. Let's go ahead and capture the rest. And it was a good amount of money, but that decision right there has carried us to where we are right now, to where we're sitting good right now and awaiting and expecting the ARWA line to be built and brought to us. So once that ARWA line comes to us, we're going to be in another good spot. So it's proper planning moving forward years out. And I'm very happy for what council has done prior to y'all and what y'all are doing to keep us moving in that direction. Thank you.
So the last slide I have here is just an encouragement to citizens and staff. Obviously, staff know how to get a hold of me, but for citizens, this phone number and this email address, if you don't want to give us a call, I very much so encourage you guys or residents that are listening to give me a call. I'm very receptive to, I'll bring you in my office or I'll come and speak to you at your home. That's my job. That's what y'all hired me to do. To make citizens feel comfortable with the drinking water that we're providing to them and to make them understand all the steps that we take to make sure it gets to their place of residence or home or business and as safe as possible. The last slide that I have is just, I'm sure everybody's aware of the situation with GBRA and Lake Dunlap. I just wanted to give you guys try to help give a better understanding of the situation. So right now, there is no lake there. I don't think it's, two-thirds of a dam left. So what GBRA has done is they've placed a portable pumping system into what now is a river in the middle of that lake, what was a lake. And they're telling us that they have the capacity to channel that into their canal to meet the surface water plant that we get water from, its capacity, which is 21 million gallons a day. The city of Kyle has just shy of 5 million gallons a day of that water. So they're telling us that they can meet the capacity of that plant under the current conditions that are set up on Lake Dunlap. It is going to be a timely process to make repairs to that dam, and I am going to stay in constant communication and keep staff informed as to what their protocol is to moving forward in the future, since it is going to be such a long process. Hopefully I've answered what I was asked to speak on. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to.
Well, one of the concerns that folks bring to my attention a lot is that the water smells. Can you speak to what causes the water to smell? There's enough people that have complained about it, and then I don't smell it. So I'm just gonna say I'm not one of them, but others are. Can you tell me why it is that might be the case? Some people say it smells like chlorine. Some people say it smells like some form of gas or,
So
something.
there could be any number of things, and it's difficult to evaluate everything in any given circumstance without knowing the exact issue and visiting the residents and going through steps that we use to isolate the issue. Obviously, free chlorine residual that is in the system that we have to maintain is going to have a little bit of a chlorine smell or bleach smell, and that is going to be a little bit more pungent in some areas of town versus others, just depending on where you are in the system. There could be any number of things, such as it could be the first thing that we check is a hot water heater. Is it on the hot water side? Is it on the cold water side? It's just any number of things. I guess what I want to emphasize is that any resident that is having those issues, I really encourage them to reach out to our staff or to me through the channels that we have in place so that we can act on them quickly and, as I see it, responsibly to address them, because otherwise it just goes on. It's hard for my staff and myself to figure out what the problem is if they're not reaching out to us.
So what I hear you saying is that if there's something, if one of our water users says that they feel like there is something wrong with their water, they can contact you and you will come and you'll take a sample, you'll analyze it, you'll try to help them
Yes.
understand what the problem might be.
So I'll give them a phone call, and then we'll follow up with staff to visit their residents or wherever they're having the issues. And we follow our protocol of, checking residuals, trying to mimic the problem that they're experiencing with our staff. Let us smell the water. It's just hard for me to say, what the problem could be, because it could be in a number of things.
I wish Warren was here as well, because he's with the distribution, him and Michael Bristol. But they go out regularly. They're going out to houses, what's going on with this, that happens all the time. Not that we have problems. High 90s% of the time, it's their own filtration, their own water system that's having issues. That's usually what it is. Tim's right, it could be the water heater. The residual down at the bottom of the water heater is another problem that we see many times. It may be that system is tied into the clean out, because as that water filter system purges and releases that water, they'll tie that into the clean out, which is your wastewater collection there coming out of your house. So naturally, you're going to get the fumes, the gases back into the house. That kind of thing happens as well. We've basically seen it all. Very rarely is there an issue. It could be, just to give an example, and be open and upfront with you, you know, like a construction site. You know, they go and they load up a new line, you know, they chlorinate it and everything. If they don't get that flushed out well, and our inspectors are real good, they're right there on point, watching them while they do it. But let's say by chance something happened, and some higher chlorine got out, and then the first thing that we do when we go to a site, we test it. And we test it right there immediately, and we tell the customer, here's what the reading is, so that they know it's not just us telling them something. We show them and walk them to it and show them the test, the whole procedure while they're doing it. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
So I wanted to give you the heads up, this issue comes up every decade. This isn't a new issue. So I really appreciate you getting the information in regards to how citizens can contact you. That's something that we've never been given before. So I really appreciate that, but I'd like to, you know, make a note that this is not a new issue. This is something that continues to, I hate the word plague, but it continues to be an issue, and I appreciate your hard work. Now, I did have a question in regards to the dam break. We had put out notice that we needed to conserve water. With that dam break, do we still need to continue to conserve water, or are we back on, are we fine?
That was out of pure caution, and I had insinuated that we do that, just because we didn't know what to expect from GBRA at the time. Staff and I are currently evaluating the situation. I really would like to meet with GBRA to find out what kind of system and more about the system they have in place before we lift the voluntary restrictions that we had asked citizens to follow.
I think that I would like to see us do more advertising in regards to that. One email is, or one posting really isn't enough, especially when the dam issue did happen. There was a lot of talk about it, and I contacted Scott pretty immediately, and James was really quick to get back to me. But one of the things that I was really concerned about was that we did not do some type of a press release to our citizens to let them know that the conservation was a necessity and why. So I'd like to see if we can't make sure that we push out that we need to continue to conserve. And then the other question that I had, and I don't think that you can actually answer this question, is in regards to the ARWA water rate. One of the times that we were talking about was what we were going to do in order to educate citizens in regards to the increase in water bills. And I have yet to see any work on that. And I want to see that pretty quickly, because that water rate, we need to figure out what that's gonna cost them. We need to get them prepared for that additional billing.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am,
you.
you're correct. I don't have the answer
Yeah.
to that, but I will definitely follow up with,
Yeah, I know, and
All
that's why I said
resources.
it's not something you can handle, it's something that we have to handle, because we'll know what the water rates are, and we'll be working on that. But I wanted to say thank you for all of the hard work. Your
Appreciate it.
presentation was fabulous. It was well documented and well done, so thank you
thank
for
you.
that.
I appreciate it. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, I'll second that on the presentation. Thank you. And I'll probably be one of those people that are taking you up on sitting down on that wastewater thing. So maybe you can help me out, and maybe I can help others out with that. Definitely would like to get this presentation emailed to us. Really good information there, and hopefully that's something we can disseminate as well, because this was a really important presentation. Thank you for bringing this up as well on the agenda. I do want to had one question about earlier in your slide. There was a reference to the lead and copper testing that's done every 3 years. Approximately when will we have that, the results of that report, and how will that be disseminated or made public?
So, unfortunately, we're given the very blown up situation that happened in northern United States with lead and copper. TCEQ has removed that information from their drinking water watch where it was made available, because they had individuals going to those residences' houses trying to get, I don't know, a story or what it was. So the residents that are on the list will be notified of the results after the city receives those results. If council would like to review those, I'd be more than happy to provide those, but I don't know that that would be in the best interest of our residents to make that public, just because of that reasoning.
Thank you for breaking that down. I appreciate that.
Anyone else?
So are you telling me that the report in of itself has personal information? Is that that's what we're trying to guard against?
As addresses. Yes, sir.
Addresses and
Yes,
whatnot?
sir.
So we can probably scrub the report and just give us results, right, in
Sure.
different areas and segments? That way we can protect that?
And the results, I'm sorry, the results are available on that Drinking Water Watch.
Okay.
On there for previous on analysis that were done. It's just not going to give you a breakdown of every single address that we tested at.
Okay.
Just prepare yourself. I didn't realize that you would go out and inspect folks' water, so when they complain to me, I'm giving them your information and tell them you're gonna come out. It's coming. So, but
That's
thank
fine.
you.
No.
That's tongue in cheek, but that's also a sincere thank you for being willing to do that, because obviously we're not technicians on this side, and so we don't have a lot of an ability to help resolve folks. And obviously Harper's points were very well received, that there can be circumstances where folks may have something wrong with their system in the way that it's bringing water to their faucet that could cause smells and other problems. And so it's wonderful to know that our staff is willing to go out and help them resolve those issues.
Definitely.
So thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.